Hello, my name is Tanya Nye, and this is my presentation on classical Chinese funerary practices. So China has several dynasties and several kingdoms. So I narrowed it down to two kingdoms that I picked out. Both practice Buddhism and moved into Confucianism towards the end of the kingdom's eras. The first kingdom I'm going to go over is the Goryeo kingdom, and the ritual with the 10 kings of hell. This is a Buddhist ritual which incorporates pieces of Taoist cosmology by reciting the Baowan scrolls of the 10 kings. It was very widespread in many regions of China during the Ming and Qing dynasties. It did have a trace of the Tang dynasty also. The teaching offers salvation from the torments in the afterlife to the dead. The soul journeys to the 10 courts of the underworld and begins with the first court 7 days after death and ends with a new rebirth 3 years later. During this time, the 10 kings lead the courts and evaluate the deeds and hand out punishments. One of the other rituals and practices during the Goryeo kingdom was spirit money, where the dead is cremated, and before leaving the temple, relatives would take money or paper and attach gold foil to the body, and they would burn it with the body. And this thought that they are sending the dead and easing their way into the afterlife. So did the practices survive in the Goryeo kingdom? Well, the Three Kings ritual would be a yes. In varying forms into the 19th and 20th century, it did survive. In the Yangtze Valley area of China, it has become more of a religious, devotional type practice, but it is still around. The spirit money did die out towards the end of the Goryeo kingdom because of Confucianism becoming more prominent, and Confucianism or Confucianists thinking that it was disrespectful. They felt like, or they feel in practice, that the living and the dead are connected, and by severing the connection with the living by burning the money or spirit money, then you are disrespecting them. So, moving on to the Dali kingdom. This is a famous pillar. It's from the Dali pillar in Kunming. It's of the Yunnan burial rites of the Bao people from the kingdom of Dali. It's from the prophecy of Prince Abode, where he was trying to escape his destiny of being reincarnated to an evil destiny. And to break his destiny, he had to write an incantation on a pillar, and if he did this, he would be spared from being reincarnated into an evil destiny. And thus it began this belief that these pillars being built, that if you walked into a shadow of one, that you would be spared being reincarnated into an evil destiny. And this became a practice in the Buddhism funeral practices of the Bao people in this part of Dali. The Dali kingdom was very indigenous. It was very spread out and had many different communities. Here I've listed just 4 different rituals from 4 different communities. With that being said, each community had many different ways of handling their loved ones' last rites. Some placed the loved ones in coffins, some did not. Some placed their loved ones in the wild to burn them. Some placed them with clothing and cloths. Some wrote Sanskrit letters to them. Some then placed them in urns under stones with writing on them, and some did not. All of them did cremate the bodies. This does become a problem later at the end of the Dali kingdom. And so then we get to the part, did the practices survive? Yes, certain parts survived. One that did not survive was the part with cremation. So Confucius scholars objected to the practice of cremation as it was cruel and desecrating to corpses. And so towards the end of the Dali kingdom, during the Ming and Qing dynasty, the reformation, social reform took place, and the penalty for cremation became the death of the senior member of your family. And so in Buddhism, the practice of Buddhism towards the end of the Dali kingdom basically was abandoned. So it really died out. One thing that did survive, it died out for a short period, but towards the 19th and 20th centuries, one thing that really came back and has come back is the inscription stones on tombs and graves, because it has become a way to track genealogy with family history. So we do have that now. So that is my presentation, and thank you for listening. Here is my bibliography and my references.